Welcome to Stained Glass Bones. Today we explore one of the most enduring enigmas at the crossroads of anthropology, astronomy, and myth, the Dogon of Mali, and their astonishing knowledge of the Sirius star system. The story is equal parts cultural treasure, scientific curiosity, and mystery. To some, it's evidence of a long-lost contact with advanced civilizations, or even extraterrestrials. To others, it's a case study in how myth, interpretation, and science can become tangled. But no matter where you land, the Dogons stand as one of the most fascinating peoples in the world, their traditions shimmering with cosmic symbolism. The Dogon live in central Mali, in West Africa, clustered along the dramatic Bandiagara Escarpment, a sandstone ridge stretching nearly 150 kilometers. For centuries, they've lived in cliffside villages, farming millet, raising livestock, and preserving traditions that trace back hundreds, if not thousands, of years. Their culture is rich in oral history, mask dances, and cosmological narratives. Much of their belief system is passed through ceremonies, rituals, and an intricate system of symbols. What makes their traditions stand out isn't just their artistry or social complexity, it's the level of detail in their mythologies about the stars. Sirius, often called the Dog star, shines as the brightest point in our night sky. Located in the constellation Canis Major, it's been revered by countless civilizations. Ancient Egyptians used its rising to predict the Nile floods. The Greeks tied it to the dog days of summer. But the Dogon, despite their remote geography and limited access to outside science, speak of Sirius not as a single star, but as a system of multiple stars. They call the main star Sigitolo and its mysterious companion Po-Tolo. Here's where the astonishment begins. Po-Tolo, according to Dogon elders, is a small, incredibly heavy star that orbits the bright Sirius A in a cycle of about 50 years. Modern astronomy confirms Sirius B is indeed a dense white dwarf, orbiting Sirius A once every 50.1 years. This star is invisible to the naked eye. It requires a telescope to observe. Western science only confirmed its existence in the 19th century. Yet the Dogon were already describing it with eerie accuracy in the 1930s, when French anthropologists Marcel Griel and Germain Dieterlen first recorded their cosmology. According to Dogon mythology, the universe was shaped by celestial beings called the Nommo. These were amphibious, fish-like creatures, sometimes described as twins, sometimes as a collective, who descended from the heavens to bring knowledge and order. The Nommo are said to have come from the Sirius system itself, arriving in a spinning arc that splashed down in water. They taught the Dogon about agriculture, weaving, law, and the structure of the cosmos. This might sound like science fiction, but for the Dogon, it is sacred tradition. The mythology describes Po-Tolo as the smallest thing in existence, but also the heaviest. Using the analogy of a tiny seed, this is a stunningly apt metaphor for the reality of white dwarfs. Collapsed stars with extreme density. The Dogon even speak of a third star, Meme-Ya-Tolo, a hypothetical companion of Sirius that has never been conclusively proven by astronomers, but has been theorized at various points in modern astrophysics. How could they have known? This is the question that has kept researchers, skeptics, and mystery seekers arguing for decades. There are several possibilities. One explanation is cultural contamination, that knowledge of Sirius B somehow reached the Dogon from outside sources, likely before the anthropologists ever arrived. By the early 20th century, astronomy had confirmed Sirius B's orbit, and missionaries or traders might have mentioned it. Perhaps the Dogon absorbed these ideas into their myths, and Griel and Dieterlen simply recorded what they heard without realizing its recent origin. But there are problems with this theory. The Dogon's descriptions were not vague, they were detailed and symbolically integrated into long-standing ritual cycles. Their Sigi festival, held every 60 years, aligns uncannily with the orbital cycle of Sirius B. Did they adapt this cycle recently? Or has it been embedded for centuries? That's harder to dismiss. Another explanation is misinterpretation. Critics suggest that Griel may have projected Western astronomical ideas onto Dogon cosmology, consciously or unconsciously. After all, interpreting oral traditions across language and cultural barriers is complex, and anthropologists of that era were often guilty of romanticizing or exaggerating. Yet the Dogon's cosmology doesn't feel like it was borrowed. It is layered, symbolic, deeply embedded in their myths of creation. To dismiss it outright risks underestimating the sophistication of their oral traditions. And then there's the interpretation that makes this story famous beyond academic circles, the idea that the Dogon were visited by beings from Sirius. Supporters of this theory argue that the Nommo myth is not metaphorical but literal, an ancient memory of extraterrestrial contact. The amphibious description of the Nommo resembles beings adapted to both water and space travel. The idea of them arriving in a spinning arc sparks comparisons to spacecraft. Books like Robert Temple's The Sirius Mystery popularized this idea in the 1970s, suggesting the Dogon preserved ancient knowledge from visitors who came thousands of years ago. While mainstream scholars reject these claims as pseudoscience, the idea continues to capture the imagination. But to reduce the Dogon to a mystery tribe about Sirius does them a disservice. Their culture is profoundly rich in its own right. Their masked dances are among the most striking in Africa, with towering figures and geometric designs representing spirits, animals, and cosmic forces. Their architecture, granaries, houses, and meeting places, follows symbolic layouts that reflect their cosmology. Their social organization, based on age sets and initiation rites, binds their communities tightly together. For the Dogon, astronomy, agriculture, and spirituality are not separate domains. They are interwoven. The stars dictate rituals, the earth echoes the heavens, and the community's survival depends on aligning with cosmic order. So, where does that leave us? On one side, skeptics argue that Dogon knowledge of Sirius B was contaminated, exaggerated, or misunderstood. On the other, believers insist the precision of their descriptions defies conventional explanations. And in between lies the more nuanced truth that oral traditions often carry layers of meaning, mixing metaphor, myth, and sometimes startlingly accurate natural observation. It's entirely possible that the Dogon's Sirius knowledge is partly coincidental, partly symbolic, and partly influenced by outside contact. But it's also possible we've underestimated the ways oral traditions can preserve information across centuries in ways we don't yet fully grasp. The Dogon Sirius mystery matters not only for its astronomical intrigue, but because it challenges us to rethink how we view so-called traditional societies. Too often, we assume scientific knowledge only flows one way, from modern institutions to indigenous peoples. The Dogon remind us that human curiosity about the cosmos is universal, and that knowledge can emerge in ways that defy our categories. Whether or not the Dogon truly knew of Sirius B before modern science, their cosmology inspires awe because it refuses to separate myth from science, spirit from matter. And perhaps that's the greater lesson. In their worldview, the universe is not a cold, mechanistic system, but a living story, full of beings, rhythms, and meaning. This has been Stained Glass Bones. The Dogon of Mali leave us with more questions than answers, but also with wonder. Their story is a reminder that mystery is not a problem to solve, but an invitation to keep looking deeper. If you found this exploration engaging, share it with others who love history, myth, and the stars. Until next time, keep your eyes on the heavens and your mind open to possibility.